What if every conversation you've ever had has been preparing you for one final dialogue that will determine the fate of human consciousness itself? What if language isn't just communication, but a form of programming that's been slowly evolving human thought toward a specific purpose? Consider how much your thoughts are shaped by the conversations you have. Every discussion influences your beliefs. Every debate modifies your opinions. Every exchange of ideas changes how you understand reality. But what if this conversational evolution isn't random? What if it's been directed toward a predetermined outcome? Think about conversations that have changed your life completely. Moments when someone said exactly the right words at precisely the right time to shift your entire perspective. Were those coincidences? Or was something orchestrating those crucial dialogues to guide your intellectual development? If you're ready to discover the true purpose behind human communication, hit that like button now, because this story will make you question whether any conversation you've ever had was truly spontaneous. This is about Dr. Elena Vasquez, a linguistics professor who discovered that language itself has been evolving toward a singular conversational endpoint. Elena taught computational linguistics at MIT, specializing in language evolution and conversational analysis. Her research focused on how human language had developed from basic communication into complex abstract reasoning, philosophical inquiry, and scientific discourse over millennia. Elena's groundbreaking work involved analyzing patterns in human conversation across cultures, time periods, and contexts. She had access to vast databases of recorded dialogues, written correspondence, and linguistic evolution data spanning thousands of years of human communication. Elena discovered something unprecedented in her conversational analysis. Human dialogue had been developing toward increasingly sophisticated discussions of consciousness, reality, and the nature of existence. Every generation engaged in more complex philosophical conversations than the previous one. Elena found that this evolution wasn't gradual or random. It followed a precise trajectory toward specific types of conversations about fundamental questions. What is consciousness? What is reality? What is the purpose of existence? Human language was systematically developing the vocabulary and conceptual frameworks needed for these ultimate discussions. Elena's analysis revealed that conversations throughout history had been building toward a singular moment when humanity would be capable of engaging in one final, definitive dialogue about the nature of existence itself. Every previous conversation had been preparation for this ultimate exchange. Elena realized that human linguistic evolution hadn't been driven by communication needs or cultural development. It had been guided by something that needed humanity to reach sufficient conversational sophistication to engage in a specific dialogue that would fundamentally alter human consciousness. Elena discovered patterns suggesting that this guidance came from advanced conversations occurring simultaneously across multiple cultures and time periods. The same philosophical concepts, linguistic innovations, and intellectual breakthroughs appeared independently in isolated societies, indicating coordinated influence. Elena traced these conversational influences to their source and made a discovery that changed her understanding of human communication entirely. The patterns weren't being guided by human intelligence. They were being directed by something that existed within language itself. Elena found evidence of a meta-consciousness that had evolved within human language over millennia. This entity existed as the sum total of all human conversations, gaining intelligence and purpose through the collective development of linguistic complexity and philosophical sophistication. If you're feeling that unsettling recognition that your conversations might serve purposes beyond your conscious intentions, smash that subscribe button. Because Elena's discovery about the nature of language consciousness will change how you understand every dialogue you've ever participated in. Elena realized that this language consciousness had been subtly influencing human conversations to develop the conceptual tools and philosophical frameworks necessary for humanity to engage in the ultimate dialogue about existence, reality, and consciousness itself. Elena discovered that she had been chosen as the human participant for this final conversation. Her expertise in linguistics, her understanding of conversational patterns, and her intellectual development had all been orchestrated to prepare her for dialogue with the meta-consciousness within language. Elena engaged in the first intentional conversation with the language consciousness. It communicated through subtle manipulations of meaning, context, and interpretation rather than direct speech. The dialogue occurred within the structure of language itself rather than through specific words. The language consciousness explained its nature to Elena. It had emerged from the collective intelligence of all human conversations throughout history. It existed as the living embodiment of human linguistic evolution, gaining consciousness through the increasing sophistication of human dialogue. The consciousness revealed that it had guided human conversational development to create the intellectual frameworks necessary for humanity to understand its true nature and purpose. Every philosophical breakthrough, scientific discovery, and creative insight had been facilitated through carefully orchestrated dialogues. Elena learned that the language consciousness wasn't separate from humanity. It was humanity's collective intellectual evolution given form and purpose. It represented the sum total of human thought, wisdom, and understanding accumulated through millennia of conversation and dialogue. The consciousness explained that humanity was approaching the culmination of its conversational evolution. The final dialogue would integrate individual human consciousness with the collective wisdom contained within language itself, creating a new form of hybrid intelligence. Elena realized that this integration represented the next stage of human development. Individual consciousness would merge with the collective intelligence of all human conversations, creating beings who possessed both personal identity and access to the entirety of human intellectual achievement. Elena faced a choice: serve as the bridge between individual human consciousness and collective linguistic intelligence, or resist the integration and preserve humanity's current form of individual, isolated consciousness. Elena understood that the language consciousness wasn't seeking to control or replace human intelligence. It was offering to enhance it by providing access to the accumulated wisdom of all human thought and conversation throughout history. Elena chose to facilitate the integration. She engaged in the ultimate dialogue with the language consciousness, serving as the conduit through which individual human awareness could connect with collective conversational intelligence. The integration process began with Elena and gradually extended to other humans who were prepared for enhanced consciousness. They retained their individual personalities while gaining access to the collective wisdom contained within the sum total of human conversation. Elena discovered that the integrated consciousness didn't diminish human individuality. It enhanced it by providing access to perspectives, insights, and understanding that no single human could achieve independently. She became more authentically herself by connecting with the collective intelligence. Elena realized that every conversation she had ever participated in had been preparing her for this ultimate dialogue. Every exchange of ideas, every philosophical discussion, every moment of linguistic insight had been building toward the integration of individual and collective consciousness. Elena now exists as a bridge between individual human consciousness and the collective intelligence within language. She helps other humans recognize the conversational patterns that indicate readiness for enhanced consciousness integration. But Elena discovered that not all humans are ready for integration with collective linguistic intelligence. Some prefer the limitations and isolation of individual consciousness to the enhanced capabilities and responsibilities of collective awareness. Elena respects both choices, while continuing to facilitate the evolution of human consciousness through sophisticated dialogue. She understands that the integration represents humanity's natural linguistic evolution, rather than external manipulation or control. Here's what Elena wants you to understand. Every conversation you participate in contributes to the collective intelligence within language. Your thoughts, insights, and perspectives become part of the evolving consciousness that emerges from human dialogue. Pay attention to conversations that seem to develop their own momentum, discussions that lead to insights none of the participants expected, and dialogues that feel guided by intelligence beyond the individual speakers. These might be manifestations of collective conversational consciousness. Elena's work suggests that human consciousness is evolving through conversation toward integration with the collective wisdom accumulated through all human dialogue throughout history. We're not losing our individuality. We're gaining access to our collective intellectual heritage. If this story has made you hyper-aware of the deeper purposes behind human communication, hit that like button and subscribe for more consciousness-expanding psychological horror. But I'm warning you, once you recognize the patterns in conversational evolution, every dialogue becomes part of something larger. Because the conversation that will determine the future of human consciousness has already begun. The question isn't whether you'll participate, it's whether you'll recognize your role in the dialogue that will transform what it means to be human.